Welcome to Rockit Garage, and on today's episode, we're gonna lay some final prime down. And it's been a long time coming. I'm gonna go over the entire car and get everybody caught up. So if you haven't watched from the first video of me cutting the quarter out all the way to this video, there's been a bunch of steps in between. But we've got the cowl all sanded up into the windshield here. Both A-pillars. We've got the A-pillar cowl all sanded, the rockers all sanded, everything underneath all the way to the pinch weld has been sanded. This is where I grafted in this new corner here. It's been all body worked. You can see it looks really nice. This quarter looks really nice. We edged and gapped all of, which one is it? Oh. Essentially, that rooster is so loud. Essentially, we have panel gapped everything. It looks better when it's tightened down, but that's pretty close. Close enough to where I'm happy with it. Took out a dent right here. There was a down dent, and I hammered it up, and then it oil canned. So shrunk it with the torch, hammered and dollied. It's not perfect, but it's flat. So we'll get a little body filler on that after epoxy. Let's see. The tire taillight panel has been stripped along with all of the weather strip seam in this hat tray. Looks really nice. Finally got all the trim off, the sail panel, fastback thing, and I goofed up hard. These were the taillights that were on the red car. Little tiny marker side lights, right? Obviously the white car that this whole car is a bigger taillight. So I just figured I'll do the body work, I'll get to it, and then right before I'll trim it out. Well, little did I know, or the fact that I didn't really investigate it, this taillight was right here. Well, this one needs to be right there. So I had to cut it out, weld it up, re-body work this whole side. That's fine. That cost me a couple days. So I'm moving on to this side, cowl. Everything's been sanded, jams. Underneath, pinch weld. Looks really good. Trying to get, and there is the quarter panel grafted in. Tried to make the spot welds look okay. Welded up right where the seam, the factory seam would have been. Sanded everything, A-pillars like I said, and then moving on to the roof, the entirety of the roof is super flat. I'm talking, it is, yeah, it's good, especially for a 7-foot long roof. It is really nice. There is my overview of how far the car is. Everything else is still in poly. It's all been sanded 180, but it's not up to this, this step yet. But we're trying to get the whole car, the body, the shell, all done. I left the original paint on the jams because I don't see a whole lot of reason. I know it's old paint, but it's sanded and feathered. It's still stuck to the car really nice. So I don't see a whole lot of issues arising. I gotta dig some of that old seam sealer out. But anyways, the last thing I need to do is run over the whole car with 400 on a scuff pad, just to double check, make sure every speck of dirt or dust or every crack and crevice has been sanded, because you don't want any delamination. The whole goal here is to make the paint stick for 30 years. So we are, you know, hopefully longer than 30 years, but 30 years the goal, right? 30 years sounds pretty good. I'll probably not be around. Maybe. That was a dark joke. Anyways. Oh man, sound of that cough, maybe not. Some seam sealer to dig out, like this corner. Ow, break my nail, break my nail. Man, looks really good. So I think that's enough rambling. I got you guys caught up and I am going to try to spray some epoxy today and hopefully spray some primer tomorrow. And then this car is pretty much ready for final sand and paint, which is awesome. So I'm taking 400 grit or red scuff pad, Scotch-Brite, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to run over every square inch of this car. Every crack, every seam, just making sure that you hit everything to make sure there's at least a scratch on it. Get all the dirt off, grime, maybe some burnout rubber on the wheel wells. Thanks, Kyle. But anyways, yeah, just go over the entire car. You can't sand enough on this step. And then moving on to masking the car up. And I'm kind of going with what I want to go with when I paint the car. But anyways, just trying to make a formula for when I paint the car. That way it's a lot easier to run around the car and not touch it and get the cleanest paint job you can. But just back taping, putting paper. I usually use the 1.5 inch wide tape, and then the 3/4 inch tape just to kind of hold stuff down. And then I don't really have anything to say here. So yeah. Trunks are pretty difficult because, you know, once you tape it up, you can't really get to the backside. So what I usually do is run around the edge, and then I'll run some tape in a grid pattern like you see there. That way it holds the paper up, so when you're doing it by yourself, you know, it's kind of like your third hand, and then the paper won't flap around as much. So here's the car all masked up with rockers, the wheel wells, taped to the floor, back of the frame, the trunk, the back window, and you can see the trim for that sail panel is taped up. That way I don't get thickness built up there for the trim. Kind of keep that as thin as possible. Door jambs look good. Got the firewall taped up, and then the engine just plasticed over. Of course, we're spraying the full epoxy Mason, and I want to say that's a 1.7 gun. I don't think I've ever looked. After waiting for the induction, spraying it out. I'm doing it really fine right now because the shop is actually a little colder than I'd like it to be, so I'm going to run with a very thin first coat and then wait a little longer than I normally do, and then run a medium to medium heavy wet second coat. That's just kind of my formula for trying to paint with the environment you get handed. Only doing the jams, anything that was the original white paint, and then obviously the back of the trunk. This is making sure the entire car has at least some epoxy sprayed on it, which is gonna hopefully ensure less of a rust problem in the future. Just getting a nice good coat on the trunk area. And there's everything epoxied, and I went ahead and hit anything that had a little bit of bare metal showing. See right there. Just anywhere that there was metal, I just kind of dusted it very lightly. And just trying to, again, ensure corrosion is at the minimum. This car looks so straight. Now I'm just going to wait till the next morning to scuff it all up. Alright, next morning, red scuff pad again to get all of the overspray off of just everything. Every panel is going to get red scuff padded again, and I'm going to run over all of the epoxy just to kind of knock any dirt that may have landed while it was wet, or get any overspray that's on it itself. Let me know what you guys think. Am I doing it the way you would do it yourself, or am I going overboard, or am I not doing enough? I know there's certain things that I do that some people don't, but it's kind of a formula that's worked for me, and I haven't had any issues in the long run with anything that I've done so far. I have done some things that I didn't like, but most things come out pretty decent. Hopefully I have the noise canceling on my microphone right, because I have the heater running and it's loud. So hopefully you guys can hear me and not the heater. Maybe there's an easier way. Whoops, that's gone forever. And we are going to be spraying Evercoat Feather Fill. This is a hybrid polyester, so similar to the Super Build. We're going to stick with polyester primer all the way through on this car. We went epoxy, we went Super Build, and now we're going Feather Fill. This is going to be our last round of primer. This stuff actually comes with a catalyst, kind of like body filler or fiberglass. We're going to go ahead and just mix a whole quart. Because I'm not doing math, okay? I'm just going to spray the whole thing. Oh, that's mixed up good. So, I'm going to mix a quart. That would be 32 ounces. So you have to punch a hole in the catalyst, the hardener, for this primer, kind of like you do with fiberglass. And let me tell you, I've learned from experience that if you're squeezing this while you poke a hole, you will get this in your eyeball. So wear glasses. 1 quart, 32 ounces, 1 tube of catalyst. Now the question I have for myself is, do I use the 2.5mm gun, or do I use the 2? This stuff's thinner. They're just hammered down though. That is 3 coats of Evercoat Feather Fill. I really like the buff color. Anytime I can grab primer in this color, I really like, especially over the top of a gray. That way when you're sanding this, you know when you've gone too far because you'll see the gray. Other than that, I just really like the color. Probably autistic. So this is what final prime looks like. Now we're gonna 320 and 400 and 600, and then we will seal it and spray base coat. But overall looks really good. After we're done sanding everything, we're gonna run seam sealer on all the seams and gaps and cracks and all that. So the car is watertight once again, like it was 50 years ago. Wow, can't believe this car is 50 years old. Actually, it's 54 years old, almost 55. Wow. Anyways, I'm gonna let this dry and then we will start sanding. And if you're ever wondering how much primer a full-size car like this, LTD, big body Charger, what else? What are the Chevelle, GTO, whatever big body frame car you could think of, 2-door car, it's pretty much going to be equivalently the same because they're all about the same size. Anyways, this was 1 gallon and 1 quart. to do just the body, just the shell. So it's going to take the rest of the 3 quarts to do the doors, the hood, and the trunk, and the 4 pieces for the headlights, taillights. I might have to buy more. I'm not sure, but there's an empty gallon. And where am I looking? Where's the gallon go? I lost it. It's right in front of my, oh, there it is, duh. 1 quart out of that, so there's 3 quarts left. I might have to buy at least another quart, maybe another gallon just to go over everything, and then I'll use that gallon somewhere else. Yeah, I ran out of strainers, so I just had to rock just straight in the gun, which I'm glad I used the 2.5 because those little particles are pretty big in that primer if you don't strain it, and I really don't like not straining it because there's big chunks, but I had to do what I had to do. So I ordered a bunch of sticks and a bunch of filters. Anyways, we're gonna wait for this to dry. I'm gonna clean the whole shop and we'll get back to it. All right. I just realized that by the time I upload this is gonna be the last video of the year. And it's getting cold. It's cold all the time now. I gotta work around that, but that's okay. The car, like I just said in the last clip you saw, is in feather fill. I am working on getting all of the fenders and doors and hood and all the little pieces caught up to this point. That way this can sit for a couple weeks while I'm getting everything else done. And since this is gonna be the last video, this is gonna drop after Christmas. So hopefully everyone had a Merry Christmas. And hopefully everyone has a Happy New Year, and don't blow your fingers off with fireworks or whatever people do nowadays. I know I've had some exciting New Year's, but mine's probably gonna be pretty boring. I'm probably gonna just be working either on this car or the El Camino that's right behind the camera. But anyways, I just wanted to say Happy New Year's. Hopefully everyone had a Merry Christmas. And this car is literally on the most downhill stretch you can get on a paint job. It's in final prime, just waiting to get final sanded, sealed and base coat and clear and all the other steps that are left. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Liking, subscribing, commenting. This car is turning out really good. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased to myself. I think it's gonna be pretty sharp. It's not gonna be no Concours SEMA winter show thing, but it's probably gonna be one of the nicest cars that gets driven on a daily. So anyways, thanks for watching. See y'all next year.